Our next story is not about Trump's new gold sneakers, which a Fox News guest argued would, quote, appeal to black voters, drawing rebukes for blatant and clumsy stereotyping. Fox is pushing a right-wing political agenda there, obviously, but stereotyping and blind spots in our society are actually much broader because the instinct to reduce the black experience is not confined to the political right or to MAGA-related antics. In fact, across many fields, from business to culture to publishing and Hollywood, places which are often seen as somehow more liberal than conservative, still evince pretty narrow views of what does constitute the black experience or the extent that truly black stories are centered at all. It's something Spike Lee raised in his classic Do the Right Thing.
Come get no brothers up on the wall.
Man, ask Sal, right?
Hey, Sal, how come you got no brothers up on the wall?
Next banner. That movie is 35 years old. Some things have changed, but today Hollywood does not put all that many black leaders on the proverbial wall, if you will. Under 4% of top movie directors are black these days. And when black-led art or culture does prove popular, it may make it into some pretty big projects, but even then it can be done in a way that involves sort of sampling or co-opting or a kind of swiping that leaves out many of the original creators. That was a point made in the film Bring It On.
Every time we get some, here y'all come trying to steal it, putting some blonde hair on it, and calling it something different.
So, where do we go from here? Well, there are media companies, which we should note, argue that they're trying to confront these dilemmas. It was only recently that Disney made a Little Mermaid that featured a black actress centering people in a different way, and that drew very positive reactions from many families and children, right? Fictional characters mattering to real people. I can mention streaming services now feature dedicated pages for what are called black voices or black perspectives or black stories. And companies from media to Wall Street are trying to expand diversity programs, especially since the BLM protests of 2020, which we all remember, right? But the DEI programs that sometimes were propelled in that era have now been targeted by the right. The Supreme Court limited them on campuses by going after affirmative action. And when it comes to public perception, well, we know what people think about all this is, of course, shaped by media and culture. So diversifying and refining these spaces can matter. Oprah famously shifted people's views with her show and then her book club. And that brings us to something important tonight. This new film, American Fiction, which explores diversity, exclusion, and racial double talk in the rarefied literary world. And it follows a smart, insightful, and rebellious writer who chafes at how such supposedly enlightened or liberal spaces like publishing or academia are full of so much BS and racial hypocrisy. The lead, played by Batman star Jeffrey Wright.
I'm a doctor.
So am I.
Right. Maybe if we need to revive a sentence.
Books change people's lives.
And this is he.
Oh, really?
Yeah, God damn it.
Enemies see each other better than friends.
These books have nothing to do with African American studies. They're just literature. The blackest thing about this one is the ink.
The character there reflecting on the sort of bookstore stereotyping or even, you know, commercial segregation of that black ink text. Jeffrey Wright, as you see on the screen, is an Emmy, Tony, Globe winning actor. He's nominated now for an Oscar for Best Actor on this project. I think American Fiction has 5 Oscar nominations. Jeffrey, we can get to the awards. It's interesting because the film looks at the commodification of prestige and awards as well. But let's start with your character. Tell us about him.
Well, first, I just want to say I'm so glad, Ari, the way you led into this, because, yes, our film is about a writer, and he's frustrated by the limitations that are attempted to be imposed upon him by the publishing world. But the film is not limited in its scope. We're talking about representation in a broad way, and the ways in which we are misperceived, we misunderstand one another, we misunderstand race, and therefore we make very little progress in trying to overcome some of the historic ills that have led to the injustices that we're all aware of on some level, even if we try to dismiss them. But the film is about a guy who writes things that don't necessarily fly off the shelves. He has interests of his own, specific to him. He happens to write at times about Greek mythology and revisiting old texts. Those books aren't perceived as being black enough. And so out of frustration, he decides to write, a street novel, a novel, Ari, that you would appreciate. And that he does it, dismissively. He does it to mock the genre. He also does it to mock the hypocrisy of the publishing world. But it becomes his best-selling novel. Meanwhile, he's written it under an assumed name, Stagg Lee, and he's forced to kind of lead this weird double life, and our story flows from there.
Yeah, and it's I'm so curious how you do it as an actor. We're not going to do total spoilers here, but we have another clip where you're an actor playing a writer who's now has to do some casual acting. So I don't even know how you prepare to show that, to evince that double layer, although I couldn't help but watch it and think about, the famous essay, Double Consciousness in Black Life, and the way that there is acting and performance throughout society. So I'll let you respond to all of that, but let's show the viewers here that moment from the movie.
We're both very excited to discuss Thompson Watt's offer.
Yes, well, first of all, let me just say that all of us here at Thompson Watt are thrilled with My Pathology. It is about as perfect a book as I have seen in a long, long while. Just raw and real. And Mr. Lee, is this based on your actual life?
Yeah, you think some college boy can come up with that?
No, I don't.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was good fun to play because there was an opportunity, yes, to play, this duality, but I was particularly in the scene like that on the phone, playing one thing with the voice, but the body and the eyes are saying something else. There's a kind of self-awareness and just, a self-criticism that was really nice. But at the same time, there is a moment in which he appears in public to have a meeting, and he has to play this role. And what I did for that really was reference Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor in a movie called Silver Streak, in which they're in a bathroom in a train station, they're fugitive, and they're trying to evade the police, and Pryor, with some shoe polish and like a Jamaican beanie, is trying to coach Gene Wilder in being black. And it's just the funniest, one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in film, and I absolutely referenced that. I don't often reference other films and performances, but I certainly did for that because it was a pretty good one. So yeah, it was good fun playing that. I also wanted to make sure that he wasn't necessarily the best actor on the shelf. He's a good writer, right, but not necessarily that great a performer. So that was good fun as well.
Do you think that many people, be it black Americans or other people around the world, could also relate to that idea, to be accomplished and then still have to perform various versions or dare I say shades of race for real audiences, not fictional audiences?
Well, I think what has been interesting about our story and the ways that audiences have received it is that, yes, it's told from the perspective of my character. It's about a man who wants to be seen for his authentic self. He happens to be a black man, and he's misperceived because of whatever racial biases or misconceptions out there in the world. But that experience is not solely one that you have to be black to have. I think we all desire to be seen for who we are. We all desire to be affirmed. We all want to be our authentic selves and live from that perspective. So there's a universality baked into this.
Before I lose you, because it's a live interview, this is an old clip from a 22-year-old describing some of the commodification of culture that I think the film explores.
Very good.
All the society is doing is leeching off the ghetto. They use the ghetto for their pain, for their sorrow, for their culture, for their music, for their happiness, for their movies, to talk about boys in the hood. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be I don't want to be 50 years old at a BET We Shall Overcome Achievement Awards. You know what I'm saying? Not me.
I was really reminded of that with some of the themes. We have about a minute left, so anything else you wanted to say about the family, as well as your response to a 22-year-old Tupac discussing the entertainment complex?
Yeah, no, I think the two are related. Yeah, that's absolutely the case, that there is a simplification of certain forms of representation that allow, I think, when these things happen to cross over, they allow an audience to feel themselves superior to, but therefore they can digest. It happened at the beginning of cinema in America. It happened at the beginning of theater performance in America with blackface minstrelsy. Right? And we're seeing, if you look back at the history, you can see a trajectory from that early form of representation that allowed a larger audience to have a dismissive view on a people. We can see the trajectory to this day. Our film makes commentary about that. The reason I think the family is so critical is because what it is in some ways an answer to the simplification and the tropes and the stereotypes.
Right.
Because it's simply a man at the center of his world, being ordinarily human, being a caretaker to his mother, having to deal with the dysfunction and the strange love that is family, just like anyone else. Across backgrounds, across the world, has to do at some point in their lives. So for me, that's why I talk about it. And that's why it was so moving to me, because it's beautiful and it's universal.